News on KCAA Loma Linda, sponsored by Teamsters Local 1932, protecting the future of working families. Teamsters1932.org.
NBC News Radio, I'm Chris Coraggio. Crews are conducting recovery missions in central Texas after floods killed over 100 people. Search efforts are now into their 5th day. Officials say rescue operations have faced extremely treacherous conditions. There are still 5 campers and 1 counselor missing from a girls' camp in Kerr County, where 27 girls and counselors died. While there's a chance for some more rain today, the region is forecast to get a break from storms. California Governor Gavin Newsom is speaking out against the armed deployment of federal immigration agents in Los Angeles' historic MacArthur Park. Federal agents and military vehicles descended on the park yesterday, but details about why they were there weren't immediately available. Newsom claims the operation was politically motivated and disruptive to one of LA's most vulnerable communities. Newsom also says the National Guard members who were protecting people during wildfires are now being used as political pawns. I'm Chris Coraggio, NBC News Radio.
Shop Dell Technologies Black Friday event for their lowest prices of the year. The future is on sale today with limited time deals on select PCs like the XPS 16 that accelerate AI with Intel Core Ultra processors. Black Friday is their biggest sale of the year and the best time to upgrade, but it's only here for a limited time. Shop now at Dell.com/deals. That's Dell.com/deals.
One of the best ways to build a healthier local economy is by shopping locally. Teamster Advantage is a shop local program started by Teamster Local 1932 that has brought together hundreds of locally owned businesses to provide discounts for residents who make shopping locally their priority. Everything from restaurants like Corky's to fun times at SB Raceway and much, much more. If you're not currently a Teamster and you want access to these local business discounts, contact Jennifer at 909-889-8377, extension 224. Give her a call. That number again is 909-889-8377, extension 224.
This is Gary Garver. In these trying times, many people are depressed and lost because the future of our society is up in the air. People turn to drastic measures, including the abuse of drugs and alcohol. If you're going through these troubling times and turning to substance abuse because you're feeling there is no hope, we have a way for you to see the light. SAD, or Stop Abusing Drugs and Alcohol, is a nonprofit organization that will help you, at no cost to you, stop abusing drugs or alcohol. Founded by Tony Navarchi, SAD will refer you to the top detox doctors in your area. If you're having financial hardships, SAD will pay every and any cost for you, including doctor visits, counseling, and medications. Save your life and contact Tony. You can reach out to him by calling him personally at 310-999-1887 or visit the website saddetox.com. That's SADDETOX.com.
I always hear from our clients who hired another firm that they wish they'd hired DNA Financial first. Don't have regrets about your IRS tax case. Just hire the best in the first place.
One owed $150,000 to the IRS and had spent thousands on another firm. We stopped the levies, negotiated a payment plan, and had their penalties forgiven.
And while every case is different, we guarantee that we'll find your perfect resolution and get it done right.
For a free consultation, call us at 866-201-0156. That's 866-201-0156. Then you can say, DNA did right by me.
Rice Fire Protection reminds listeners that more and more veterans will be returning home over the next few years, and many are local. These heroes have elite military training and valuable professional skills. They also need jobs too. That's why Rice Fire Protection is encouraging all local businesses. Let's make it the year we hire smart and hire vets. That's a message from Rice Fire Protection at 24300 Vera Lane in Moreno Valley. For top quality service at prices you can afford, call 951-243-6677. That's 951-243-6677 for Rice Fire Protection.
Welcome to the Worker Power Hour with Randy Corrigan, a brand new show about labor and worker issues. The host of the show is Randy Corrigan, Secretary, Treasurer, and Principal Office and leader of Teamsters 1932, one of the largest public sector labor unions on the West Coast, representing workers in government and non-sworn law enforcement personnel. Randy Corrigan is a 30-year Teamster who first became involved in the labor movement by volunteering his time as an organizer with the Teamsters Union at the age of 21. Since then, he's helped thousands organize, mobilize, and achieve bargaining rights. He accomplished this by spending countless hours with brave men and women all over Southern California, in their living rooms, on the picket line, to bring workers towards victory. This is the Worker Power Hour. And now here's the host of the show, Randy Corrigan.
We're back. Randy Corrigan and the Worker Power Hour on the Teamsters Local 1932 Broadcast Network. Longtime organizer, first-time radio host. I like that intro music. I think we're going to stick with that. That's good. That's like a nice run. You feel like you're running down a runway, ready to fly or take off or get rolling or do something entertaining or fun or exciting.
You like that now?
I do.
It grew on you.
It grew. It definitely did. It's a nice intro. All right. Well, I can't say live today because we're actually filming and actually recording this the day before. So my live status is, so if you're listening right now and you think it's live, I'm sorry, we duped you. We did it the day before. I have to be somewhere tomorrow and wanted to make sure we got a fresh show and we got a really good lineup. We don't have live shout outs today because we're not actually airing this one live. But we definitely have a full agenda, have some guests coming in and all the normal good stuff that we do on the show. And we're excited we're going to be launching here pretty soon, Worker Power Radio. You're going to be able to access music, news, shows. There's going to be a nice spattering of content where you can just hit a link and Worker Power Radio will be 24/7 for you. Most of the time it will be music, so you can do requests for genres of, you may like a certain style of music or type of music, and then we'll encapsulate some news in there, little clips, and then we'll do some shows, maybe do some best of or something. But we're having a good time with this format. We feel like we're gonna have even more fun. And what other local union has their own radio, 24/7 radio network where you're gonna be able to connect? Actually, nobody does. We're gonna be the first one to launch this. We're gonna hopefully roll it out in August. Have it lined up to where the music's ready, and to where if you're at work and you want to listen into some cool music, you just hit on it. Now you can't fast forward or anything. It'll be, we're not that tech savvy yet, but it'll be a good mix of good music, and then you'll get some mixed content in there every now and then. Just another platform format we're trying to build the connection to everybody. I'm really excited about that. Should be a lot of fun. Let me do a real quick recap. It is July 9th, and let me recap July 2nd show. We had Gaspar Diaz on, our very own 1932 Gaspar Diaz from the Amazon Air Hub KSBD in San Bernardino. Boy, he was great. He nailed it. He did such a great job. As a matter of fact, we sent the clips out on social media. His clips were far greater than all the other ones. Clearly, lots of people want to hear from an Amazon worker, him, and he just does a great job of articulating what's going on. He talked about the lobbying he did in Sacramento for AB 288, which recently passed. He talked about his work that he's doing with his coworkers at KSBD. His energy comes out, and most importantly, we thanked him and we do appreciate his service to our country. He's a veteran, served in the National Guard. He walked through that, talked about the 21 years, the different things that he was deployed on, the different things that he participated in from 1989 until his 21 years of service ended. And then he talked about his job at Amazon. and what he's doing with his coworkers and how inspiring that is to occupy that space. So great job, Gaspar. Really, really, really thought you did a magnificent job of bringing that message home. We're also joined by Carla Benninger. She's a San Bernardino County Guardian, and she talked about her job and the role of what her and her coworkers do, playing, guardian, not playing, but acting as guardian and making sure that those that can't really care for themselves in a way of, the managing their money, their care, hospital care, and she walked through the challenges of that job. It's one of those jobs that you really don't know about unless either you or somebody's going through something extremely challenging. And to hear the things that her and her coworkers have to deal with is pretty powerful. And I really appreciate her coming on. She did just a great job of explaining, a lot of different stories too, situations, and explaining the intricacies of the job and how she got into the job. So great job. Really, really appreciate it. No live shout outs today, so I can't go through all the live shout outs. As I said earlier, for those of you that are listening live, thank you for listening live. Stay listening live. And this is not a repeat show. This is a fresh show, so you can hang on and listen, because this is the first time it will air, will be the time that you hear it, even though we recorded it yesterday. We won't release it until y'all think it's supposed to be a live show. Again, have some commitments that got to be in multiple places at the same time, and I'm like, all right, let's just do the show a day ahead of time, and then we'll plop it in and make it seem as if it's close to being live, or it's a fresh show, I guess is how you call it. KCAA 1050 AM, 106.5 FM. Also a reminder to download the KCAA app in the Apple Store or Google Play Store. If you want to reach our radio show, you can also contact us at radioshow@teamsters1932.org. Yeah, I combined Apple and Google. Did you hear that? Oople?
That's a oople?
That was funny. That
was good.
I know. I caught it, and I kept going, and then I was like, I'll come back and make it funny. I saw you guys giggling on the other side of the studio.
Sounds like a Kamek.
Right. Thought I was making up a name or something there. All right, so the next part of our show is member highlights. I think this is one of those parts of the show where we highlight how great Teamsters are, and part of the Think a Teamster campaign is making sure that everybody knows all the great jobs our members do. And this week's highlight is we want to recognize the incredible work that Teamsters Local 1932 members do at Bear Valley Community Hospital, from ER clerks and respiratory therapists to imaging techs and surgical staff. These essential healthcare workers joined our union family to fight for better wages, job protections, and a stronger voice on the job, and they're doing just that. Their commitment to patient care and workplace dignity is what the labor movement is all about. Keep up the great work. And so the Bear Valley, for those of you listening in from a distance and not sure where Bear Valley Community Hospital is, it's actually in Big Bear. Many people, no matter where you live in America, you will know where Big Bear is. It's actually the community hospital located in the mountain communities that Big Bear is in the center of. There's a few little towns kind of around it, but the hospital there, they are now Teamsters. And so if you go into the ER, if you're going to be in the hospital up there, or obviously those in the community that need to go into the hospital, they're being handled primarily by Teamsters and making sure that they're taken care of. As always, we appreciate all of our members that do work within the community, but specifically in healthcare in times of need. Teamsters are there to make sure you are cared for when you're at your weakest, sometimes at your most challenging times, or you are in a crisis or an emergency. A lot of times it's a Teamster there to make sure you're okay. And so we appreciate those Teamsters that do the work at Bear Valley Community Hospital. Thank you. And just as a reminder, last week's show I discussed the big, beautiful bill that's not so beautiful. And one of the issues that we identified is the Medicare cuts are actually going to affect that hospital. We can see that the Medicare cuts will affect the funding mechanism of Bear Valley Community Hospital. So we will keep you posted on what that means and how that's going to affect the workforce in addition to the services. We know that some of the hospitals on the list that have been sent over could eventually face closure as a result of these cuts. And we want to make sure that we're in front of it, and we're going to ask you to potentially advocate in certain circumstances and situations, and we'll be mobilizing behind that. So the next part of our show is last week I didn't get to all the victories within 1932, all the great work that's being done here on a regular basis. I think I'm going to have a little overlap, so there's a couple things I may have covered it twice, but it's no big deal. When you do some good stuff, it's okay to repeat yourself. A number of things all over the local union. Clearly we represent more than 16,000 workers in the Inland Empire at various agencies, the County of San Bernardino, and a bunch of companies that we've organized. And our staff has just done a phenomenal job of making sure that each and every day there are issues being resolved, being taken care of. And if you're listening in and you are non-union and you're just hearing us and you're trying to understand these things that I'm talking about, the advocacy that's happening on a daily basis when you're in a union environment, a lot of times just really goes unnoticed. And so what we're doing is we're talking about that, and we're explaining some of these details. A lot of times that really get missed. We're not saying names or giving specifics to out certain situations that people may be embarrassed by or may not want others to know, but we're giving details so that everybody could hear what really goes on when you are talking about advocacy when it comes to union representation. And so we were able to negotiate a separation agreement securing an extended salary and health coverage while waiving a $7,500 medical debt. So saved somebody clearly, more than $7,000 in that process, a member. Steward meetings, providing tools to navigate the ADA process and identifying just cause violations and analyzing past practice when no formal policy exists. So clearly stewards engaging in a process to better advocate for their coworkers. The Desert Water Agency first round of negotiations has begun. So good luck to them. We'll keep our eye on that and be keeping you up to speed as to what's going on, as well as the Loma Linda negotiations continue to move forward. A diehard Kaiser member reviewed the new Aetna plan that the trust fund offers and saved by moving away from the Kaiser plan. And you're talking about moving into a PPO, was able to save $420 a month in his pocket. So again, we like sharing these little stories. That's a significant amount of money when you think about it. Also negotiations and preparations for CFS managers, a class and cop study being done, in addition to recognition for Big Bear Hospital. That was, again, the Bear Valley Hospital. There's new classifications that are being recognized. The city of Banning, we have a report that made the argument for and received back pay for 15 pay periods worth of bilingual pay for a member in the Banning Police Department. Also at Sunline Transit, helped a member craft a message that allowed him to negotiate a higher level benefit when he was being offered a new position. The city of Hesperia worked with a few members to make a connection with a city council member so that we can discuss how important health care is to working people. And it's one of the things sometimes council members don't understand. They are in charge of the city employees and getting them to understand the importance. And heck, sometimes you'll see that when it comes to health care, other bargaining units, the employer will essentially take a position that some people's health care, I guess, is worth more than others, or some employees are more important, so they have more health care or less health care provided for them as far as the premium is concerned. Our position has always been the same, and it'll always be the same, that 100% of an employee's health care should be provided by the employer, period. And, sometimes we can't always achieve that goal, and sometimes the group's not always willing to walk off the job to make that happen, but we definitely ask them to. And sounds to me like that's the process happening over there in Hesperia. Confire, we got some great results. PERB has ruled in favor of the merger on June 23rd, so negotiations are going to begin the last week of July. On December 26th of 2024, 46 members of the Emergency Service Dispatchers of San Bernardino County Association voted to merge with 1932. The group of call takers, dispatchers, and supervising dispatchers are employed by Confire, a joint powers authority in San Bernardino County that provides EMS and emergency communication services 24/7, 365 for the communities of Apple Valley, Big Bear, Chino Valley, Colton, Loma Linda, Montclair, Ontario, Rancho Cucamonga, Redlands, Rialto, Running Springs, San Manuel, and San Bernardino County and Victorville. So congratulations to them. It's now official. Even though we had been representing them in an unofficial capacity for the last few months, PERB has now finalized that and ratified and approved, ruled in favor of the merger being official. So great victory there. A retiree club for 1932 is in its beginning stages. The survey has been sent out to determine everybody's schedule, and great starting participation. The local 1932 staff is looking forward to future meetings with retirees and get them into action. Retirees can be very powerful. They can help knock on doors, help phone bank, help get the message out. And a lot of them really are participating over a long period of time. There's a lot of experience there, and helping them advocate for the future is really, really important. And may I remind you, you are listening to KCAA 1050 AM 106.5 FM. Also, the 1932 Hispanic Caucus created a children's book, Sophia and Mateo Outsmart the Ice Monster, to calm kids' stress over the fear of their families being taken. The book focuses on actually teaching kids about the Fifth Amendment while using today's current issues that are happening in the United States. Great book, a lot of fun. It's good to see a stressful situation turned into something very positive. And I will say this, the reason why you hear me doing the call letters separately, the radio identification, is we will be carried on another radio station in the low desert here pretty soon in the next couple weeks. And so we have to break up some of the things that we say so that when it airs on the other radio station that we're going on, that they'll be able to put their call numbers and letters over the top of what we're saying on this show. And it's good to see that our message is broadening out, getting wider and wider, more and more people listening to us. So that's obviously some great news to come. The Women's Committee just completed a very successful LA Sparks game just a few days ago. Great attendance. Bus was packed and full. Everybody had a great job, and it was a great game. Went down to the wire. The Sparks ended up losing, but it was great to see everybody participating in that. Good job. Our Fontana members are highly involved and in the loop of their city politics. They recently attended a boba event with Jesse Armendariz. Jesse, who was from Fontana on the council, is now a board of supervisor, and obviously everybody has maintained a good relationship to make sure that the advocacy is in the right space. Plenty of City of Rialto members attended the city council meeting. Apparently they came out in big numbers. Great job. Appreciate all the work that you're doing out there, and hopefully the Rialto members are listening in at some point. And again, you don't have to listen in live. We'd love if you listen in live. There's a lot of good interaction that comes with it. But what also happens is you can listen to the podcast. You can listen to the podcast on a few different platforms, or you can listen to it on There's a website that it sits on, or on the 1932 website. What's cool about this show is that we have more than a half a dozen platforms for people to listen. You can listen to it, stream it live. You can listen to it through the app. You can listen to it from the radio station that we're airing from live, or you can then listen to the podcast in various forms. You can listen to it on iHeart. I think we're on iHeart Radio as well. There is a ton of platforms to listen, and we love the feedback that we're getting from all those different platforms out there, and we love the growth that comes with it. In Worker Power Hour news, the Southern California grocery workers for UFCW reach a tentative labor deal. Members of Local 770 of the United Food and Commercial Workers Union had previously authorized a strike if a deal could not be reached. So no specific details have been proposed or released yet, none have been released that were proposed. And although the union officials said it includes higher wages and additional pension contributions, improvement in health and welfare staffing, just didn't give specifics. A lot of times what you want to do is you want to wait until that information gets to the members first so that they can vote on it and it not get clouded by everybody's opinion. I have seen the best deals be doomed by misinformation. And, I'm always troubled by that, but it is what it is. Something else in news, we're going to have a guest come on here in about 5 or 10 minutes. And this is related to this strike out of Philadelphia. This part of the news is talking about, I've actually seen some pretty nasty comments that people have made when it comes to the trash workers in Philadelphia. And, some people would argue that workers in the trash industry don't deserve fair wages. But that's not something that they would say, nor if your trash isn't being picked up for a few days, you're probably going to be in a situation where you start to quickly appreciate how important that job is. And so negotiations resume between AFSCME District Council 33, Mayor Parker's administration on, it's actually day 6 now of that strike. Representatives for the striking AFSCME District Council 33 and Mayor Sherrell Parker's administration sat down for another round of negotiations Saturday of the ongoing labor strike. It's another opportunity for us to sit down. Hopefully, this is a quote. It's another opportunity for us to sit down. Hopefully, we make some progressive movement from where we've been. DC 33 President Greg Boulware said before heading into the building where the talks were taking place. Later today, we'll be joined by Maggie Maloli, spokesperson for the Philadelphia AFL-CIO, to explain what's happening on the ground. And so I understand there's a lot of trash piling up, and residents are supporting the striking workers on a very large scale. Concert venue events are being canceled in solidarity of the strike, and so you're seeing a community what appears to wrap itself around these workers, and as they should, especially in the city of brotherly love. We really appreciate workers in every city, and the reality is worker power comes when the community engages in this process in a very meaningful way. So we look forward to having her on the show here shortly. The Faster Contract Act, a Republican-proposed landmark shift in labor negotiations, is gaining steam thanks to our General President and our administration here at DPLA at the IBT in Washington, D.C. They've done a great job of building out some policy that would force employers to the table much faster than they currently do under the National Labor Relations Act. It's a bipartisan so far. It's Senate Bill 844, also known as the Faster Labor Contracts Act, and it was introduced in March of 2025. As labor relations matters continued to stagnate before the quorumless National Labor Relations Board, this new bill is starting to gain attention for its potential to, 1, turn labor contract negotiation rules on their head in a positive way in the United States, and 2, substantially improve the bargaining position of unions. The bill was introduced by Republican Senator Josh Hawley from Missouri. This is where our ability to reach over the line and make sure that there's a bipartisan effort And it'd be great to see this act pass. And again, I want to commend our General Executive Board, our General President, Sean O'Brien, in addition to the DPLA under Sunshine McBride and her whole team that have really been pushing senators and congressional leaders to ultimately pass something that the entire labor movement should get behind here very soon as we're able to get to the right space. And hopefully September, right before everybody kind of gets back together, right, Robert, in D.C., once they kind of get back together and start, making these decisions, there'll be even more support behind it. And so with that, we're going to take a quick break and then come back with Maggie Mullooly, who is the Communications Director of the Philadelphia AFL-CIO. This is Randy Corrigan and the Worker Power Hour on the Teamsters 1932 Broadcast Network. Take it away, Mark.
Here's the KCAA Community Calendar for the month of July. The Redlands Theater Festival presents their 53rd season of Theater Under the Stars in Prospect Park. 5 productions in rotating repertory. There is something for everyone to enjoy. This year's lineup includes Young Frankenstein, Radio Gals, The Spitfire Grill, You Can't Take It With You, and The Thanksgiving Play. Tickets and show schedule is available at rtfseason.com. The 102nd Redlands Bowl Summer Music Festival will present free performances every Tuesday and Friday evening throughout the month of July. Enjoy music of world-class performers under the stars. Arrive early with your picnic dinner or buy something to eat at their snack bar. Seating is first come, first served. Performances begin at 8 p.m. This year's musical is Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat, July 24th through the 27th. So many wonderful performances all summer long, located near downtown Redlands. If sports is more your liking, there's plenty of single-A professional baseball with 3 locations in the Inland Empire. The 66ers in San Bernardino, the Quakes in Rancho Cucamonga, and the Storm in Lake Elsinore. Check their website for at-home games and game time. On Wednesday nights beginning at 6 p.m., it's the weekly Locana League at Board Game Paradise. Whether you're a seasoned player or just starting out, the Locana League is the perfect opportunity to dive into the magical world of Locana Disney, meet fellow fans, and enjoy some friendly competition. The cost is $10, located at 109 East State Street in Redlands. And that's the latest from the KCAA Community Calendar. I'm Lillian Vasquez on KCAA 1050 AM and 106.5 FM.
We're back. This is Randy Corrigan in the Worker Power Hour in the Teamsters 1932 Broadcast Network. We're joined by Maggie Mullooly she's the Communications Director at Philadelphia AFL-CIO. Looks like we have you on the screen, Maggie. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the Worker Power Hour.
It's great to be here. Thank you for having me.
What do you think? We got our own radio show here. We've got a ton of platforms, and it's called the Worker Power Hour, and we're having a lot of fun with this. And we really appreciate you coming on to talk about what's going on there with that strike. And we'll get into that in a second, but I just like to brag about the fact that we got our own radio network and we're on multiple radio stations. In addition to, we have a lot of fun guests on, and we just talk about promoting unions and how unions integrate with the fabric of the community and making sure that not only the general public, because obviously it's going over the airwaves, right? Mm-hmm. And just so you know, today we're not technically live because we're recording a day early because I have a conflict tomorrow. So we'll be live tomorrow recorded. But normally I love to brag of the fact that we have a live radio show. And it's kind of tough to run a live show, but actually we're running today like it is live. So welcome, Maggie, to the show. And do you want to introduce yourself and talk about what's going on there in Philadelphia?
Yeah, like you said, my name is Maggie Mullooly. I'm the Communications and Training Director for the Philadelphia Council, AFL-CIO. I'm also a Teamster. I'm a member of Local 623. So I love to, talk about being a Teamster and the great power of our union.
I didn't know that. You're a Teamster, huh? Oh, that's good.
Yes. Yeah, we organized about 2 years ago.
Okay.
623.
So at the AFL-CIO, the staff are Teamsters.
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
That's great. Man, that's well. This is the Think a Teamster program, so thank you. Another great Teamster out there doing some great work.
Yeah. But we like to say in Philly that Philadelphia is the center of the universe. And right now it really does feel like it with, DC 33 being on strike. They've essentially shut down the city in a way. They've been on strike. We're entering week 2 now. And they've been at the bargaining table, I think 2 or 3 times since the strike was called last week. And unfortunately, it looks like there's little progress on the administration side in terms of reaching a deal that reflects these workers' immense value to the city. So while this is all going on, we're trying to help out, do whatever we can to keep their folks fed and supported on the line.
Well, I'm not sure what we could do this far away, but you tell us and we're in. Let us know what we can do. I don't know if you're aware, but we have a bus that we have a really nice bus that seats almost 50 passengers. And I can tell you right now, I'm going to get calls right away saying, let's get on the bus and go to Philly. like I always get those calls as soon as we talk about some dispute that's happening somewhere else. Our members want to get on the bus and get rolling. But what are the bargaining units? What types of workers are engaged in this labor dispute in Philadelphia?
Yeah, so Philadelphia is pretty interesting in terms of the municipal workers who run the government. We have 4 municipal unions. We have the police, the firefighters, and then we have AFSCME DC 47, which represents what folks call the white collar jobs, and then DC 33, which is who's on strike right now, and they represent a ton of different workers. I was actually just trying to name them all to see if I could do it, but I don't think I can. So they represent 911 dispatchers, crossing guards, library assistants, folks at the water treatment center, our streets department, which is different than the sanitation department, and the folks who run the rec centers. So right now we're in the middle of a heat wave and all of the city pools and rec centers are pretty much closed, which is another, big sticking point for the strike right now. It's so hot and it smells like garbage and we can't even go to the pool to cool off.
These are similar jobs to what we represent in our local union in 1932. Every classification you just went through, we have multiple units that have those very classifications, whether it's in the cities that we represent or the county that we represent. So our members do obviously very like jobs. It's good to know that a union member, when you dial 911 in Philadelphia, it's a union member. Here it's a Teamster, but there it's a union member who's answering the phone and helping somebody through their most difficult moment in their life, one of the most difficult moments in their life, and making sure that they're taking care of it. That's a very powerful message. And quite frankly, these elected officials need to make sure they do right by these workers because they're super important.
Yeah, it's really interesting that you bring up the 911 dispatchers in particular. The day that the strike was called last Tuesday, the mayor did a press conference and was talking about how they were essentially bringing in scabs to fill in the work of the 911 dispatchers. And she said that if you call 911, just stay on hold. We will eventually answer your call, which is just an insane way to...
That's a heck of a message, right?
Yeah. It's an insane way to...
Please hold.
Yeah, please hold while somebody is trying to rob you, Yeah.
I mean, I got to get a 911. I know what's going to happen. We're going to have some 911 dispatchers that listen or watch this show, and they are going to hear this. And I can't wait to hear their feedback on what you just said, because as a 911 operator, there's a lot of pride in the job that they do. You can tell, and I'm sure it pained them to walk off the job. But that's what they've got to do. They got to withhold your labor when you get to a point like this. And the reality is getting the mayor or anybody to, kind of minimize that role and say, yeah, well, guess what? You're going to have to be on hold while you got this emergency happening.
Yeah. Right now, there's currently, well, I will say that I believe it was like 280 or so workers were deemed essential from a injunction and have returned for work. And the majority of those are 911 dispatchers. There also just came down an injunction today regarding folks who do the 911 equivalent at the airport. And so about 8 of those folks will have to return to work tomorrow.
Being forced to.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Not
yes.
by their, they're not volunteering. They're
no,
being forced
no.
to. Yeah.
Yes.
And understandably so. We get that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But on the same side, there's kind of this unfolding debate happening in terms of the supervisors and managers employed in the city. There are about 100 or so managers who are essentially locked inside the water treatment centers across the city and are working 16-hour shifts and being paid nearly $2,000 a day.
See, that's another job that gets taken for granted. Like, what
Exactly.
does it mean to say water treatment? That means you flush the toilet and it goes bye-bye, right? Like, we take for granted in modern day that you turn on a faucet and water just magically appears and you flush the toilet and it magically goes away. The reality is there's an entire infrastructure and there's all these people to make sure that our water is safe. History has shown us that millions of people have died as a result of not having safe, clean water or capturing it or getting it out of the system in the right way. And, in today's day, we take that for granted. So, of course, them supervisors are going to have to work a lot. Those managers are going to have to do a ton of work to make up for what everybody else would be doing on a daily basis.
Yeah, we actually sat down and did the math today to figure out what the comparison is in terms of what they're paying the managers to work 24/7, and it comes out to around $2,000 a day. And when you do that math per week, they are paying 2.6% more just to keep these supervisors on the clock than what they would be paying the workers if they met DC 33's most recent wage proposal. So they're spending more money just to have people who are not trained and familiar with systems kept inside these buildings, sleeping on cots, working insane hours. It's really just a whole bunch of, we say this all the time in labor, your money reflects your value to the company. And, they would rather just pay folks 2.6% more a week than pay the union workers who are trained and efficient at doing this work, their jobs,
Yeah, sounds like a breakdown in their approach. Clearly the employer is jumping over a dollar to save a dime, as we would say. I hear the trash is piling up too.
Yes. Yes.
This is where we appreciate trash workers, right? Again, a system where you put it in a bag and then it goes in the container and it just disappears, right? Disappears. You don't have to think about it anymore. This is only the last, 50, 75 years that water disappears the way it does, that trash disappears the way it does. These systems have been built and we take it for granted on a daily basis until there's no one there to pick it up. And then all of a sudden we realize how much waste we're going through, right? So what's going on with the trash? Is the mayor's trash piling up at their house?
So I don't know what's happening
Someone's got to take a picture
house.
of that.
Yes. But I will say that the kids, as I'm referring to the folks on Reddit and X and all of that, have started calling the garbage piles the Parker piles.
The Parker piles, nice.
In reference to the Mayor Sherelle Parker, her last name. They've also have started calling her the garbage mayor, with all the trash piling up. But essentially what the city has done is they've, announced 60 or so locations across the city for folks to take their trash to. And they are having managers and non-union sanitation workers come in and remove this trash. But the kicker is you are only allowed to take your trash to these disposal sites once a week and on your specific trash day. But there isn't anybody like checking or managing this. They're just there in the middle of the streets. And so I've seen pictures where it's entire like city blocks essentially that are just filled with garbage. And, the administration is pushing this narrative saying that, we're picking up the trash every day, disposing of it, but there's really no evidence.
Where are they disposing of it? Maybe they're taking it over to another neighborhood and dropping it off, right?
Exactly.
And some people will push back and say, oh, you got to do your jobs. I can't believe you would let this happen. No, these are the things that have to happen for people to realize the appropriate value of the worker, whether it's the being put on hold at 911 as much as you don't want to have anybody hurt by that. The same is true with trash. It's a dangerous job. It's actually a trash driver, somebody who works in trash. It's far more dangerous than being a firefighter, far more dangerous than being a police officer. It's actually in the top 5, I believe, of most dangerous jobs in America. And so the reality is that job should absolutely be valued. And you know what? You got to let it pile up so that whoever's in charge recognizes your value. And, I always find it funny, those that may rail on the other side of the argument, you let their trash pile up and all of a sudden it's like, I'll do anything to get rid of this stuff because they don't want to be shuttling it over to the dump.
Yeah. I in the community Facebook groups that I'm in, I've seen people like offer to pick up their trash and dispose of it for them. And they are paying like $75, $100, which is way more than what these workers are getting paid hourly to go and do like entire city blocks.
Yeah, that's less than the monthly rate that you're paying for the trash. I mean, that's more than the monthly rate you're paying for the trash probably to be picked up. But that sense of urgency is there, and I guess people are trying to capitalize on it. I'll get your trash for you.
Yeah, I mean, you can
private trash disposal companies coming out of nowhere, right?
Yeah, and it's a real shame because the public, it really seems like, is standing behind these workers in their strike, but there's just so much misinformation around scabbing and like what it means to stand with union workers at this time. A strike isn't easy. Nobody wants to go on strike. It's very much a last resort, as I'm sure you're aware.
It's never taken lightly either. It's not. I know we sometimes say you got to do this, you got to do that, but the reality is anybody that's behind agitating that strike to happen, as you will probably attest to, there's a lot of thought put in it from the group itself before they make that decision. So thank you for pointing that out. I think it's a very valuable lesson to say, yes, we do utilize the right to withhold our labor, but we also don't take that, we don't overstep that boundary either. We just have to know we have that right and use it at the right time. And it sounds like it's the right time there in Philadelphia right now.
It really does, especially when you consider the fact that the majority of DC 33's members are making just slightly above poverty rate wages. Some of them are barely, getting by. The average salary for sanitation workers in particular is, I believe, $46,000 a year. So these are already workers who are exploited. This is, the predominantly Black municipal workers union.
And how much does everybody make in the mayor's office?
Well, it's funny you should ask.
Is there an answer?
Yeah. Her cabinet, which is the largest cabinet that Philadelphia has ever had, is making well beyond $120,000 each. And they have the majority of them have gotten significant raises within the last term, or the last year, I'm sorry. And these workers are like barely getting by in comparison. Meanwhile, Philadelphia has a requirement that if you work for the municipal workforce, you have to live in the city of Philadelphia. How
do you live in the city of Philadelphia on $46,000 a year? I was just going to ask that. Where are they living? And so if they're working for the municipality in which they're living in, how, are they providing housing that goes with it and you're making $46K? Like, obviously you're shaking your head no. So the answer to that is no.
No, they're really not. It is.
I mean, spot me a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom pad, and I guess the $46K a year might balance itself out somewhat. But anyway,
no,
right?
It doesn't. And the mayor has just within the most recent budget has come up with this thing called a home initiative, which is a bunch of different programs, meant to fix the blight that is, affecting Philadelphia housing. I can't speak to the full specifics of it because I just don't know the plan inside and out. But she has since come out since the strike saying that this program was intended for DC 33 members. But if you think about it, the credit scores, the income requirements that are required to be a part of this program.
It bounces everybody.
Exactly. Like, you can't say this isn't like a pull yourself up by the bootstraps scenario because the cards are stacked against these folks. They are doing the essential work that makes Philadelphia run, but they can't even afford to live here.
Yeah, that's crazy. So, really appreciate you coming on the show. We still have a little bit of time.
Yeah.
You clearly, you're the communications director for the Philadelphia AFL-CIO, so you're immersed in labor. Isn't it good to see these fights be supported by the general public? I think the general public is feeling that same angst in the same way you're describing these circumstances where people can't afford to actually live in the city that they work in because the employer is. Here's the incredible thing is if you work for a private sector employer, you can live anywhere. But this actually sounds like there's a municipal code that has you working in the jurisdiction that you're living, the jurisdiction that you're working in. And so you are bound to it, which is good. I actually like that. I think it's great if you're connected to the community that way. But, $46,000 a year, I mean, I don't care where in Pennsylvania you're at. That's tough to live by. I mean, you could be all the way out in Western Pennsylvania. That's still not going to work, right? So how is this happening? These workers, I mean, this is tough. This is no wonder they're on strike, and no wonder they're letting the trash pile up.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Philadelphia is a union town, and we are really proud to exist in the landscape in which we exist in. But there's just so much. I don't know if it's blissful ignorance or what it is, but people just don't understand the people who they see every day who are doing the work that makes their lives easier. And I think that as we are putting, faces to statements and really trying to introduce the public to the workers who are doing the work, people are really sympathizing with them. People are fed up with the cost of living crisis. People are also in their own careers, not seeing the raises and COLA adjustments that union contracts often come with. So people are just frustrated. And when they see somebody who, is genuinely hardworking and who is doing the work that makes Philadelphia run, they feel for them. We have this stereotype of Philadelphia being real, like, angry and crazy and, like, bitter sports.
Wow, they're just got a lot of spirit. We love that.
Yeah. And that's it. Like, Philadelphia, you can say what you want about us, but we really do look after our own. We really care about our own people, and we really want to see the best for everyone. Like, that's what it is.
Is there a strike fund that we can donate to? Can you talk about it real quick and we'll...
Yes. So DC 33 just put together a strike fund with Better World. Is it better if I just put it in the chat? What's the best way to get that link to you?
Can you spell it out right now, or what they go to?
Yeah. So
and then we'll send something out. We'll send out like a notification out to everybody in conjunction with this with the show going out.
Yeah. So the email is, the link is AFSCME, AFSCME 33 betterworld.org /campaigns/33-strike.
Gotcha. We got that, so we can go back. And yeah, if you could just text that link over to our comms person here at the local, then what we'll do is we'll get it out, we'll share it, and then we'll try to help raise some money for this great strike. So anything else you want to cover on that? I just want to shift gears and talk general labor here for a second before we close out the top of the hour. Is there anything else you want to talk about before we shift?
I just know that I've spent a lot of time with the folks on the line. In my role as a trainer too, I've also been helping them get ready and get strike prepared. So I've really built a relationship with these workers, and I can tell you how much it means to them to have so much support and, from everybody. They really came into this fight as the underdogs, but it really seems like the tides are turning in their favor. So I appreciate you for giving me the opportunity to talk a little bit more about what's going on here in Philly.
Man, we really appreciate you coming on, because it's, that's the purpose of the show and our Think a Teamster campaign. I don't know if you're aware of all the platforms we run here at the local, but we have billboards, we have buses, we have electronic billboards where we run a message and we talk about all the great jobs our members do in the community. In addition, we use those billboards when we need to put pressure in the area too. Got it? So they are multifaceted, and just the fact that everybody knows we have so many billboards that we use as a marketing arm, they also know that we could use those to affect certain things that we need to affect in the particular region. So, we always want to use them as a positive, but we obviously have the radio show, and, we have our Teamster Advantage program, and we have all these platforms, but we are having a lot of fun with this radio show, and we're at this live radio show. And we're now, we're now going to be on even more networks here pretty soon and growing out. And it's really just, connecting the dots of what workers do and telling the stories and talking about small business in the community and how all these things connect. And we're just having a great time with it. And people just love to hear the stories of what workers do and how they're advocating for their local community, or, how powerful these jobs are, clearing the snow and snowstorms, or, making sure people have food at the appropriate time, and, answering the call when 911 happens. There's all these, really, really important jobs. So what do you think of what Local 1932 is doing? You're working at AFL-CIO, organization.
Yeah.
So, we're a little, as unions, sometimes we're all a little archaic in our approach, but we're proud over here that we're doing some fun stuff. That's why we love having people from other parts of the country on to kind of listen, and our members and the community alike, because it's not just our members that are listening to the radio, it's over the airwaves.
Yeah.
So, what do you think?
Well, you guys you're really making me want to not send my boss this interview, because he's going to want to start a radio show.
Good. I wanted to. That's what we want. We'll carry him on our radio stations.
Yeah. I think, I'm 25, so I feel like I experience the media a little bit differently than some of my older colleagues. And I really do believe that you have to reach folks wherever they are. And so if that's the 20 minutes that they're spending driving to work every morning on the radio, then that's how you do it. Or, we've done targeted ads before. So whether or not you're targeting veterans to a union veteran job fair, you have to meet folks where they are. And the more ways that you are doing it, the more effective your messaging is.
Good. Get your boss on a call and let's get him on the show. He or she. Let's get him on the show, and let's talk about how you guys can start your own show, and we can air you over here, you can air us over there, and again, it's all about getting the message. We only have 60 seconds until I have to go to the mandatory break because we are at NBC studio. But I just let's get them on the show, and let's talk about it, because what I'm trying to do with this platform is agitate more unions to occupy it, to where we're just getting the message and the narrative out to the general public. The general public is embracing it. We have 45 seconds. What do you got to say in closing?
Yeah, I mean, just building off that point, if the other side has this media echo chamber that they are using the crap out of, we need to build our own, right? And if we have effective communicators like yourself telling our story, that's all the better. And I think that's what we need to do. We need to be relatable and down to earth with people.
Thank you, Maggie. Maggie Maluli she's the communications director of the Philadelphia AFL-CIO. Thanks for coming on, talking about the strike there in Philly. This is Randy Corrigan of the Worker Power Hour on the Teamsters Local 1932 Broadcast Network. Take it away, Mark.
NBC News on KCAA Loma Linda, sponsored by Teamsters Local 1932, protecting the future of working families. Teamsters1932.org.
NBC News Radio, I'm Chris Coraggio. Crews are conducting recovery missions in central Texas after floods killed over 100 people. Search efforts are now into their 5th day. Officials say rescue operations have faced extremely treacherous conditions. There are still 5 campers and 1 counselor missing from a girls' camp in Kerr County, where 27 girls and counselors died. While there's a chance for some more rain today, the region is forecast to get a break from storms. California Governor Gavin Newsom is speaking out against the armed deployment of federal immigration agents in Los Angeles' historic MacArthur Park. Federal agents and military vehicles descended on the park yesterday, but details about why they were there weren't immediately available. Newsom claims the operation was politically motivated and disruptive to one of LA's most vulnerable communities. Newsom also says the National Guard members who were protecting people during wildfires are now being used as political pawns. I'm Chris Coraggio, NBC News Radio.
Located in the heart of San Bernardino, California, the Teamsters Local 1932 Training Center is designed to train workers for high-demand, good-paying jobs in various industries throughout the Inland Empire. If you want a pathway to a high-paying job and the respect that comes with a union contract, visit 1932trainingcenter.org to enroll today. That's 1932trainingcenter.org.
Did you know that 55% of working Americans would choose a lower-paying job to work under a leader who inspires their brilliance? In today's fast-paced world, resilience isn't just a trait, it's a superpower. If you're feeling overwhelmed by life's pace with hurry and worry, struggling to find a way, discover the secrets with Simon T. Bailey's bestseller, Resilience at Work, How to Coach Yourself into a Thriving Future. Get your copy today on Amazon and unlock your full potential.
This segment sponsored by our friends at the all-new Sammy's Restaurant. Sammy's is now open in Calamasa at exit 88 off the 10 freeway next to the Jack in the Box in the former Bob's Big Boy Restaurant. Not to name drop, but Sammy's in the former Bob's is a lot like Norm's. It has an extensive menu with multiple restaurants in Rialto and places like Upland and Rancho Cucamonga. Sammy's is a great place to dine. Their menu is very similar with their American trio of delicious steak, shrimp, and chicken and an expansive menu. You won't go hungry and you won't go broke at Sammy's. You can come meet Sammy and his family. Sammy was a chief cook for Norm's for years, and it shows in his menu. Sammy's is a great place to meet the family, friends, or have a community meeting. You can ask about their private meeting room, available for parties of 15 or more on a first-come, first-served basis. Sammy's is now open from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. every day at 540 Sandalwood Drive off of exit 88 at the 10 freeway in Calamasa. Look for the Big Boy statue. It's still there. We thank Sammy for returning to this station as a loyal sponsor. You can find more info about Sammy's at sammyscafe.net. That's sammyscafe.net, where you can also find discount coupons to save money. And by the way, Sammy's has free Wi-Fi too. Sammy's in Calamasa, Rialto, or one of their other locations are ready to serve you. Sammy's is now open in Calamasa.
Now, here's a new concept, digital network advertising, where businesses display your ad inside their building. If a picture's worth 1,000 words, your company is going to thrive with digital network advertising. Choose your marketing sites or jump on the DNA system and advertise with all participants. Your business ad or logo is rotated multiple times an hour inside local businesses where people will discover your company. Digital network advertising. DNA, a novel way to be seen and remembered. Digital network advertising with networks in Redlands and Yucaipa. Call in the 909 area 222-9293 for introductory pricing. That's 909-222-9293 for digital network advertising. One last time, digital network advertising. 909-222-9293.
Welcome to the Worker Power Hour with Randy Corrigan, a brand new show about labor and worker issues. The host of the show is Randy Corrigan, Secretary, Treasurer, and Principal Office and leader of Teamsters 1932, one of the largest public sector labor unions on the West Coast, representing workers in government and non-sworn law enforcement personnel. Randy Corrigan is a 30-year Teamster who first became involved in the labor movement by volunteering his time as an organizer with the Teamsters Union at the age of 21. Since then, he's helped thousands organize, mobilize, and achieve bargaining rights. He accomplished this by spending countless hours with brave men and women all over Southern California, in their living rooms, on the picket line, to bring workers towards victory. This is the Worker Power Hour. And now here's the host of the show, Randy Corrigan.
We're back. Randy Corrigan here in the Worker Power Hour on the Teamsters 1932 Broadcast Network, airing live most of the time from San Bernardino. This time we're actually recording a day early because we didn't want to skip a show, but as usual, yeah, I think we've settled on the music. I know I keep talking about that, but I like that run-in with that music. It's got a nice fast pace to it. Last week, Mark decided to play something that was a little slower on the second half. And if you're going to have a slow and a fast, it's the second half that should be fast and the first half should be slow, because you got to, wake yourself up after talking endlessly for 60 minutes straight. Anyway, so boy, Maggie was great. Like, that was good and it was great to hear. I didn't realize that she was a Teamster, that the Philadelphia AFL-CIO staff organized and are part of a Teamster local. I forget which local. She said six. There's a lot of 600 and 700 locals in the area, but that's great to hear. Was it 623 that she said? Anyway, the point is she's a Teamster and she's the communications director, and there's a strike in Philadelphia where workers to do the same thing we represent here in the Inland Empire, pick up trash, 911 dispatchers, making sure that when you flush your toilet, water goes bye-bye. Like, very important workers are withholding their labor right now in the city of brotherly love, and good for them. I hope that they get everything that they're fighting for, and shame on those elected officials who are not settling this and getting the issue resolved. Our next part of the show, we are joined by Tricia Keeling. Is that correct?
Yes.
Tricia Keeling. She is with Redlands Advocacy Group, a nonprofit. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah.
And why don't you introduce yourself real quick? This is the Worker Power Hour. We have a live show, or we have a show that broadcasts over the radio in addition to a podcast and everything. I actually get upset when people call it a podcast. I'm super sensitive because I'm like, no, it's a live radio show. So Today we're running it like a live show, even though it's being recorded. We're not doing editing or anything. So if you do say something bad, Mark over there's got to push the button to dump the last 6 seconds.
Not today.
I guess you're right. We can go back and clean it up. Huh?
Edit.
No, we're not going to do that. Like, we still got to. We're literally like at the same time we're starting and we're making it feel like it's a live show. Anyway, enough of me rambling on. Tricia, why don't you introduce yourself and talk about what you're on the show for?
Yeah, my name is Tricia Keeling. I'm from a community organization called Together for Redlands. I'm the director. We've been organizing in Redlands and surrounding areas, mainly around our school board and the issues that have happened there. We do things like advocate for transparency within the government, their local government. We're civic watchdogs. We have been really on the ground opposing some really divisive policies that the school board is trying to pass right now. Like many other areas in Southern California and across the nation, our school board, we lost a couple seats in the school board, and now we have like a far right conservative board that's trying to pass a number of policies. So
like what? What are the policies? Here's what's interesting. I always hear these stories about, don't tromp on my First Amendment, but then turn around and you get into a space like a school board, and then I want to take things out of a library.
Right.
Like,
that's
interesting. Like, Isn't that quite the contradiction in platforms?
It is 100%, because this is the exact same policy they passed in an area called Chino Hills. It's also in the Inland Empire. And right now, Redlands Unified has a policy, like, if you don't want your child to read something, you can call the district and call the library, and they will make sure that your kid cannot take that book out. But right now they're trying to make a policy, and they're doing a final vote tonight on it, so that a number of books will be pulled if anybody complains about them, if they're considered perverse in any way, with no definition on what that is. So they will pull the book automatically, then they will look at it. We kind of know which way this is going to go. And it's going to cost our district like thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars. They did something similar. They pulled 9 books in 2022 and reviewed them under the current policy, and it cost the district $20,000 just for 9 books. And we know that it's going to be exponentially worse than that.
Yeah, and I remember some of those things were at Clement Middle School, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember seeing the misinformation.
Correct.
That people went to the microphone and straight up lied about. Like it's always interesting. You know, I think in modern politics, the truth doesn't seem to matter anymore.
No.
So the reality is, you know, there's the good thing in Redlands is there are a lot of people that are on the right side of this issue.
Yeah.
Clearly not enough when it came to the voters.
Right.
As we've clearly had to live with and will have to live with for a while.
Yeah.
But, you know, I have an interesting take on this. Some of you may say, oh, why does this have to do with labor? Well, it has everything to do with labor. My son, who just a few years ago graduated high school, and he sends me this text message while he's in high school. I think he was a senior at the time, where the book was calling the history book, or excuse me, his government book was calling unions a cartel.
Oh my God.
A cartel. And I mean, imagine that book, us going to the school and saying that book needs to be bounced, right? Like, oh no, I'm assuming we run up against a pretty big headwind there, right?
Right.
And quite frankly, when you really look at labor and how the story is told in school boards control curriculum or influence it dramatically. School boards can make sure that labor is taught in the right way, but the discussion around labor has really been pulled out almost completely because corporate America, again, this ideology is ingrained to make people think that unions and labor, that it is a cartel.
Yeah. And that's even actually a word that's used now by the Chino board president, who is very influential in this area around school board. She calls...
Who is the cartel? She's the cartel.
She calls them the Sacramento cartel, which is like Tony Thurmond, the superintendent of schools.
Those people are the furthest from the cartel. That
right.
I mean, you're talking a guy that grew up in a rough neighborhood.
Right.
I kind of know the difference. Tony Thurmond is not the cartel.
No.
he's actually a really great guy.
Yeah,
he's a really
he is.
nice guy.
He's wonderful.
Man. Yeah. He's good to people, man. He really, you know, and Tony's in that space because he really wants to help kids, you know. Anyway.
Yeah, no, I was going to say too, another thing we do is we do support the union too, the teachers union in the district, and they've been fighting these policies as well because a lot of these issues will come down to them. And what does that mean for their jobs if they are now so there's a book banning policy, there's also a flag banning policy where they're going to determine what a teacher can have on the classroom walls in their classroom. And how much space do they get, and like what happens if they just put up a pride flag anyways, even though that's against the rules that are coming up. And then another one that they're trying to do is something called a notification policy. It is pretty much similar, almost exactly to the policy in Chino that caused a lawsuit from the state attorney general, Rob Bonta. They will be asking teachers to forcibly out students to their parents. And then that gets put on the teacher.
How do you do that? Like how, like that is, you know, I've known a lot of teachers in my time, and I mean, imagine trying to even judge that situation. Let's forget what the responsibility is first.
Right.
How do you thrust yourself into judging that?
It really is putting the government into your family's conversation. It
Correct.
really is.
Absolutely.
Which is ironic. Right.
Yeah, I thought the whole platform was to keep the government out
right.
of
Exactly.
my home.
Yeah.
No?
No.
Not right now, huh?
Yeah, it's pretty cut and dry. We're hoping they don't pass that one. We were hoping they don't pass any of these. It's probably going to happen. And we'll just have to switch gears from there once the decision is made.
That school board meeting is tonight.
Tonight, yeah.
And I'm assuming you have people lined up to come in and speak about it.
We have people coming at 4. We have people that will line up 2 hours before the meeting down the streets. There was 500
Is
cards.
this at Clement too?
No, this is at the smaller boardroom.
Oh,
in
okay.
Redlands, yeah.
Okay.
We had 500 speaker cards turned in at the last meeting, most of which, like 99%, against these policies. They're not popular.
That doesn't matter.
Yeah, I know.
Right? Like, no. Like this is where you get a handful of people that are elected. And this is, again, a lot of people overlook a city council position or a school board or water board. Like these elected positions, local politics have a lot more influence than we realize. And this is why, it's important for everybody to pay attention to those things. Make sure you look all the way down the ballot. What happens is in the big general elections, whether you got a governor or a presidential election, is people have a tendency not to look at the other stuff down ballot. And it's important for all of us within our local community to pay attention to these things. Is tedious as they may seem, they're not.
No.
Local policy impacts our life a lot more than federal policy does or state policy.
It's like my shirt says, vote local.
Yeah.
It is the best way to have an impact on your community, the people around you, in the most easiest to grasp way is to get involved in your local politics. And that's, sadly, we saw a lot of people didn't show up or, like you said, didn't vote down ballot. One of the extremist board members, I will say, she only won by 197 votes in a district of 20,000 people. So it was a very slim win. So
yeah, and that's where a few more door knocks, a few more people participating, a few more people paying attention to what the issues are. But also we have to be careful of, we have to recognize, I said this earlier, that the truth in modern politics, man, like Facebook, social media, they've kind of created this space where the truth gets left far behind.
Yeah. It's amazing. Like, I'll sit in the same room with people at these meetings and I'm like, what did you take from that? Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Well, and also some people thrust themselves in because they've got another agenda to run, and that agenda isn't necessarily in what's in the best interest of the constituents.
No.
But
that's seriously what's happened in school boards, is that a lot of these issues are not popular at the state legislation level, so they push them through school boards so they can try to get the conversation going and move things further to the right in a lot of ways, and get them more acceptable. So, like the parental notification that was first seen in Sacramento, it wasn't even looked at. Then we saw it in a local school district down in Chino.
The cartel rejected it?
It did. They did. The cartel said no.
I find it funny that group is called the cartel in any way, shape, or form, because they're very, they're not rough and tumble at all. Right. They're not somebody I could see carrying a gun or doing Gestapo tactics or anything like that. Look, the Teamsters, we're familiar with being called, the cartel or the mob or, all this stuff. And it's funny because one of the things I've always told people as a way to kind of lift the stigma is if I was in the mob, these people I don't like, I just have them whacked, right? Like just have them whacked. Like, and if the cartel in Sacramento if it was really the cartel, right? Then they would just have these board members whacked, right? Like, obviously, I'm not advocating any of that. The reality is I'm trying to make light, and I'm just doing an example of exaggeration to say, come on, like they're just trying to use these words to then run with them, put it on Facebook, get somebody who makes a decision based on 15 seconds of something that they read, and then all of a sudden, you wake up one day and things are very different than what you thought you were fighting for or what the issue was.
The messaging is short on purpose. You don't have to think much with it.
Yeah, and it's almost like, people have fallen into this trap of not taking the time. The example I would give is people knocking on your door. Like we have this tendency, who's knocking on my door, getting all upset. Take the time. I get it. There's a lot going on. We're busy. I'm a very busy person. Just the other day, I had someone knock on my door. Listened. There was a guy, salesman on something solar. I already have solar. And I listened to him and I explained, after talking to him, I said, look, I'm always going to listen to someone who's out knocking on doors. That's you're hustling.
Yeah.
You're trying to communicate. Why have we built a society or we're falling into the trap to be mad at who's knocking on my door?
Yeah.
Even if you're on the opposite side of a position, that doesn't mean I have to listen to everything you got to say.
Right.
But at least engage, talk,
Be
understand. Right. Don't just, look to the window. I don't want to talk to anybody. And again, that opens the door to knocking, having communication, understanding where something is coming from, and finding more common ground.
Right.
Right now, we're so polarized. We're not finding that common ground. What do you think a good common ground would be on this space?
What I've found most people understand at the heart of it is that, for instance, these policies, right? They're going to cost us a lot of money, right? And right now, like, schools are already underfunded. We're going to see a huge loss in funding this year in California in our schools. And we're going to be spending money on these sorts of like culture war issues rather than like classrooms and field trips and books. So that's the one thing I think most people understand is that, people generally do want to help kids, right? And they want to help out their community, but they want their money to go to something meaningful. So,
right. Has the district done a feasibility study on what the cost impact of these things are yet?
None.
Before it's been voted?
None.
There's no mechanism that forces that?
I don't know. I could just base it off of like the same actions that have taken place in areas like Temecula and Chino. They've had almost the exact same things happen. Temecula had a recall. Orange had a recall. Chino has costs. I think they somewhere north of $1.9 million in legal fees in the last 2 school years. So litigating some of these issues.
Yeah, that's not good for the district.
It's a lot of crayons.
Yeah,
that's a lot of books.
That's a lot of books.
Right.
That's a few teachers.
Right.
That's some.
It's an arts program.
Yeah. Some activities, extracurricular activities.
Exactly.
That's a lot of stuff.
Right. And that's, I think most people can see it that way.
Yeah. So anything else you want to cover? We've got I think you got a hard stop here in about 7-8 minutes.
Okay. No, I'm just encouraging people. Like, in general, our goal is to get people involved. I think the more people get involved in any kind of local politics, the more they see things for what they are. Either way, we will meet with you. We'll talk with you on both sides. We just want people to get involved and to do what's best for the kids in this community and around us, and support our teachers and staff too.
Yeah, I think that's the attitude of engaging and having the conversation. You can have a situation where we disagree fundamentally,
right?
And we may be adamantly on the opposite side of an issue, but at least have the conversation and understand. I think in today's society, we're polarizing to a level in which we're just not even listening to the other side to find common ground.
Right.
It's either, okay, well, I win by 2 votes, so I'm going to take everything to the extreme this way or that way.
Right.
Versus, hey, how do we lead by a consensus? How do we lead by what's good for the community where we all work together and we find some commonalities? It takes work to do that. It takes a lot of work, and you have to listen. I would ask the question, how can people help? And what can they do to help to get involved?
So you can find us on Instagram at together_4_Redlands. We have a website, together4redlands.com. We're at every school board meeting in Redlands. And that also, it's not just Redlands. It covers parts of Highland, Mentone, Forest Falls even, Loma Linda, and even a portion of San Bernardino. So it's a pretty big district.
Yeah, it's a large district.
Yeah. Geographically. So we're at every board meeting. We bring pizza, we feed people, we make sure people are like taken care of in line with water and help if needed. And that's one way we will be hopefully our goal is to, if we can't get these board members to listen to us, we will be trying to flip some of the seats and get the board back.
And that would be in
2026. Yeah.
2026.
Yeah.
A year and a half.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anything else you want to close on, or?
No, just thank you for having me. And
Susan, is there anything you'd like to add?
Randy, you know I've been sitting here this whole time, like I've had so many things to say. This has been very difficult for me to keep my mouth shut.
I don't believe you, Susan.
Probably the longest you've ever heard me quiet.
I know. I was like, I got to do this more often with Susan in meetings. I got to have a microphone and set up this way, and I don't have her jumping in. And anyway, obviously we're having fun with it. But anything you'd like to add, Susan? Remember, it's live radio, by the way.
Fascism has come to Redlands Unified.
Yeah.
Go up and
Yeah.
support your community and your kids.
Yeah.
Because it's scary.
it is scary.
Well, we appreciate you coming on the Worker Power Hour and discussing what's going on. I know that a lot of our staff, a lot of the community, a lot of the people we represent have been engaged in this process with you and have been, trying to help get the message out. And in a lot of ways, many of us have been, really shocked by the misinformation or the straight up lies that are being told to agitate and get people worked up. And so when I see people worked up on these issues every now and then, I always on the surface say, well, I agree with you if that were the truth.
Right.
And they usually kind of look at you and go, well, what do you mean? It's like, okay, well, first of all, let's break down the truth. And then lately I've been using this. So is what we see on Facebook or what we see in the political theater lately, is it true?
Right.
And I go, you can't cherry pick right now. Like, just because it fits your narrative this moment, only what you like to hear is true. Is that really, actually there's a phrase for it. I read about it the other day. It's named after some author from many years ago, but you can't cherry pick the truth out of something that the source is not truthful most of the time to begin with. So anyway, in these debates that I've been having with people lately, I've said, based on the way you're explaining this narrative, I agree with you. The problem is most of what you're saying is it's not true.
Right.
And then when you try to drill down on the truth, that's where you get to find out if somebody is reasonable or not.
Yeah.
Or if they're seeking information to support the position versus seeking the information to make a good decision.
Right.
There is the difference. Modern politics has moved into a space where people are seeking information to support something they've already decided.
Confirmation bias.
That's correct. Not seeking information to help form an opinion or to help understand what's going on.
Right.
And I think that our modern news and our modern political, climate we should all be just taking that step back, going, okay, let's take a step back. Let's really put the facts on the table. Let's sort that out.
Right.
Let's take a little bit of time to do it. Not, well, I don't have enough time, so I'm just going to vote this way. No. That's how a society makes a lot of bad decisions, even if it may be in my individual favor that time.
Right.
Oh, chalk up the win. Well, not really, because the next time you go around, you could definitely be on the losing side if the right information is not out there. I think we really got to figure out how we do a better job of cleaning this up. So I really appreciate you coming on the show and appreciate all of our members that are engaging in this process with you, trying to help advocate and bring a safe space and transparency and, save money as well as make sure you don't have some crazy wonky policy that doesn't belong. And I always find it funny. I know I forget what city here in Southern California. It was a library, not a school library, but a library where there was a fight over is it Huntington Beach?
Huntington Beach, and they just lost.
Yeah, they lost. Like, it's a library.
Yeah.
Like, I remember as a kid, look, I'm not trying to make this thing go crazy here, but I remember as a kid, I was a young, boy, teenager, and I was like, amazing what you could find at the library, right? Like
any kid has a phone.
Correct. Right. That's what I'm getting at, right? Like at the library, it's a resource for all these different things. That's why you have guardrails and certain rules and stuff like that. But you don't pull out things that you completely politically disagree with. Matter of fact, that's what it's there for everybody to learn how to manage. That's the freedom of speech.
Yep.
That's where you learn our differences. That's where you learn how to regulate yourself as an individual to make sure that you're making good judgments versus being manipulated by a lack of information.
Right.
And I think that's where it's kind of where this whole argument lies, right?
Yeah. And it's also just like finding out for yourself things. Like one of the rumors that always gets spread is like teachers are teaching this in the classroom. And I always say, please spend some time in your kid's classroom. Please volunteer.
And teachers will
in the
tell you
PTA.
over and over again, like, on both sides of the aisle, teachers will go, easy.
Yeah.
This is not true. Like, come on.
Right.
These are not things that are going on in the classroom that you were, that others that are not teachers that are saying that. Right. So, again, sorting it out, get the information, make good decisions. Sometimes you're going to have to hear things you disagree with. There's nothing wrong with listening to the other side.
Right.
If we get into a space where we just don't listen to the other side anymore at all, it's going to be a lot of fistfights, at Thanksgiving dinner.
Right.
It's happening now. No, I'm just kidding.
No.
Well, again, Tricia, thanks for coming on. Really appreciate your work with the Redlands Advocacy Group, the nonprofit there in the region, and all the work that you all are doing. And again, we appreciate all of our members that are participating in this. That's why we had you on the show.
Thank you.
We know that this is a lot of work that you're grounded in, and you're really doing a good job of just educating the public on having good public policy. And with that, this is the Worker Power Hour with Randy Corrigan on the Teamsters 1932 Broadcast Network. Mark, take it away for a quick break.
I'm Lillian Vasquez with Community Matters. There are many car clubs and car shows throughout the Inland Empire. I visited a car show in Yucaipa and spoke with David Avila, president of Past Pleasures Car Club. He shared about the club, its purpose, and when it first began.
Well, it's kind of a debate. We believe that the first organized group was around 1979, but more officially closer to 1986 or 87. We gathered to help celebrate the Southern California car culture of the 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s.
David shared the types of cars you might see and, of course, his pride and joy.
We see all kinds of cars from early model hot rods to very, very well-appointed custom cars, all makes and models. We have everything that's pre-80. I have a 1966 Chevelle Malibu, the yellow one here, my pride and joy, but everyone just brings whatever they have. There's several cars that are under various stages of construction and restoration, and we enjoy seeing them and seeing the progress every month that they bring. It's just a wonderful event, and it's a nice family-friendly. We have bubble gum blowing contests, hula hoops, limbo contests. It's just a wonderful family event, and we encourage everybody who has a car or don't have a car, come over here and enjoy the camaraderie that we have, again, celebrating the Southern California car culture.
You don't have to have a car in the show. Spectators and car enthusiasts are encouraged to check out the classics. It's free to attend. The Past Pleasure Car Club shows off their cars the first Friday of the month from April through November, located in the Ross parking lot on Yucaipa Boulevard. For Community Matters, I'm Lillian Vasquez.
right, we're back. This is the Worker Power Hour with Randy Corrigan and the Teamsters 1932 Broadcast Network, airing live from San Bernardino most of the time, just not today. Will be recorded today, one day in advance. For those of you that are avid live listeners, we really appreciate you. We really do appreciate you listening live when you do. I try to pay attention to those analytics and see how many of you are listening on the app or listening on the radio or listening, through, there's some of you that go through some of the I think it's Kick and some of the live streams where you can see the video. I'm actually surprised at how many people do that, because I do get a lot of comments on when I say things or do things on the air. It's fun. So I appreciate you. And if you want to have fun tomorrow, treating it like it's live, I will be in another meeting. That's why we're having to record the show early. But if I can respond to them, I will, and I'll have some fun with you in that meeting. Hopefully that meeting's done by then. But it is 2 hours away, and I will not be able to make it back in time to actually do a live show. Anyway, with that, let me get into some more news, some more Worker Power Hour news, or IBT news. Teamsters Local 396 votes overwhelmingly to authorize a strike at Republic Services. Now, there's already a strike in Boston with Republic Services, and so it looks like Republic is starting to dig in, and guess what? It looks like they're going to have more disputes across the country. And in a decisive move to demand fair treatment and a strong first contract, recently organized workers at EQ Environmental Services, which is a Republic Services institution, have voted overwhelmingly to authorize a strike. These essential workers, represented by Teamsters Local 396, are responsible for the safe transport of hazardous materials across Southern California. The strike authorization vote sends a clear message to Republic Services. Teamsters are united and prepared to take action to secure the fair wages, benefits, and working conditions they deserve. So Victor, let us know if you need anything. He's a principal officer at 396. We actually had him on a show probably about a year ago. I forget how long ago it was, but he was on the show, did a really good job. Matter of fact, we found out he actually worked in a radio station when he was younger, so he could actually come on and fill in for me and host the show if I'm missing. But I know he'll actually be in the meeting with me tomorrow, so he can't do it tomorrow. We'll both be there. And so we know that the Republic Services group, it's a strong group. We can't wait to see that get resolved. But in the meantime, if that has to throw down, guess what? Workers are going to have to withhold their labor. And that's where we are in America right now. I think that workers have to understand that these corporations are only going to see things one way. They're going to blow through legal stop signs and caution and all that. And corporate America's got its way right now. And the only thing that's going to stop them or work as a backstop will absolutely be, the only thing that will be the backstop is going to be workers withholding their labor. And we don't take that lightly. I know I say that a lot. The reason why I say it a lot is because I'm trying to educate everybody on exercising it at the right moments. I think that not enough people know that they can do it, so the judgment of when to utilize that tool is not fully, the potential is not fully reached, because if you don't know it's that powerful of a tool. And clearly those in a union environment typically already know that that's a tool, but 90+% of the population in America is non-union. And because it's non-union, they don't know that they have that right for the most part. So, we'll pay attention and report back to you what's going on in that space. And we'll make sure that you are up to speed, and if a picket line's coming near you, we will help get you notified on where you can go, what you can do to help out with those striking workers. The next thing in IBT news is UPS violates the Teamsters national contract with a plan for buyouts. United Parcel Service is expected to unveil an illegal plan later this month to buy out full-time employees represented by the Teamsters, a corporate scheme that will directly violate the union's national contract protecting 340,000 delivery drivers. The multi-billion-dollar company Drivers Voluntary Service Plan, which is DVSP, which UPS has not yet publicly disclosed, would offer cash to drivers to initiate early retirement or quit their job. The DVSP, likely to be announced to workers in the coming weeks, would leave most drivers without quality health insurance if they retire under the program, and would undermine UPS's own legal commitment to create 22,500 more jobs under the new Teamster contract. In addition, anytime you're going to put something like that together, you got to negotiate it with the other party ahead of time. And so shame on them for moving into this space, and kudos to the organization for pushing back and not just, saying, yeah, sure, do whatever you're going to do. It's one of those things that it sounds like a good thing on the surface, but maybe somebody makes a decision and ends up costing themselves their health care, their retiree health care in the future. Sorry, everybody. I got to text somebody something right now. Anyway, Teamsters ratify a contract at Tyson. Teamsters Local 577 members at Tyson Foods of Amarillo voted overwhelmingly to ratify a new 4-year collective bargaining agreement. Now, this is the same group that voted to go overwhelmingly to go on strike. Did they end up going on strike, Robert? Do you remember?
Which one?
The Tyson group in Texas, in Amarillo, Texas.
The last time I saw it was that they just authorized it.
Yeah, they authorized it. So clearly they overwhelmingly have ratified the contract. This victory is what Texas Teamsters are all about, coming together as one so we can fight for a better life for ourselves and our families, said Al Brito, president of Local 577. Let this be a lesson to everyone else in the meat packing industry. If you're not happy with work, it doesn't have to, if you're not happy with work, it doesn't have to stay that way. You can win a better future with a Teamster contract. So congratulations to them. It's good to see that they got resolved. We really, obviously love to see workers organize, do something about it, and then, memorialize that in a union contract where they're able to change their future and change their future trajectory. I've been doing this job long enough now where I've helped workers occupy this space and get into a union contract, organize, fight for a union contract, and then now see them many years later retire. And so to see at the time that they pull the trigger to retire, that they recognize how much different their life is because they decided to do that. So great job in those workers working for Tyson Foods in Amarillo, Texas. And, Amarillo is not that big of a town, and it is in the middle of nowhere. I don't know if anybody's driven by it on the 40, but, ironically, there's a little town just before it that is called Shamrock, Texas. And I actually have a funny little story about Shamrock, Texas on a St. Patrick's Day. A St. Patrick's Day many years ago, I was driving back from Oklahoma. I had a family event I had to go to, and I pulled into Shamrock, Texas on St. Patrick's Day. Drove by right after the St. Patrick's Day parade had finished up and actually witnessed a rainbow. And so some people may think, that sounds random. Why are you telling me this? St. Patrick's Day, I happened to go into Shamrock, Texas, and see a rainbow. So I kept driving around trying to find that pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. Obviously, I could never get to the rainbow end to find the pot of gold, but I felt like it was a great omen, and it was kind of cool, and it's a cool little town. It reminds me of the movie Cars. It really looks like the movie Cars for those of you that haven't seen it. Anyway, you're going to say something, Mark?
Did you get rained on profusely?
No, not a lot. Just sprinkled. It wasn't bad. The heavy rain was on the other side. It was obviously in spring, so
they get some wicked spring storms.
They do, but it was really cool. Again, seeing a rainbow, Shamrock, Texas. I know, obviously, it's a big impact on me. Maybe everybody listening doesn't care. I just thought it was kind of cool.
Should have played the lottery that day.
Anyway, in other news, I should have played the lottery that day. But wherever I'd have played the lottery, guess what? I probably wouldn't have been able to collect because you got to be a resident of that state, right? Is that the rule?
No, you can play other lotteries.
You can play lottery anywhere.
Yeah,
but you got to collect. You got to drive back and collect
and pay their taxes.
Oh yeah, look, I have no issue with that. If I'm going to win some money, I'll pay the taxes.
No, but you can play anybody's lottery.
All right, so I have a Teamster Advantage profile to read. We one of the things that we do with our Teamster Advantage program is we have profiles on a lot of our partners, and we don't always get one in here. And obviously, with the show not being on Wednesday, us moving it around, we couldn't get a Teamster Advantage partner. We don't necessarily have to always have one in here, but what we want to definitely do is always read, at least a profile. And I have an interesting story with this one. Rotolo Chevrolet in Fontana. So Mr. and Mrs. Rotolo used to actually come in and get gas at the mobile gas station I worked at on the corner of on the corner of Sierra and Foothill. And so I remember, obviously, Rotolo. I remember the two of them when they would come into the gas station. And so it's cool to kind of read the profile here because they've actually been around since the year I was born. So Rotolo Chevrolet has been around since 1971. And what other dealers can say that? Like, how long have they been around? For 53 years now, or 54, depending on what time of the year. Great family. Like, they were very family oriented and anchored in Fontana. And I know the Rotolo family has actually since sold the dealership to, I think, the Capriccio family, who has a dealership up in, yes, it's 53 years or 54. I know you're trying to count over there, depending on which, if it was established before this date or after this date.
You saw
whatever.
that, huh?
I saw you doing it. In 1970, Mariano Rotolo bought Eddie Malone Chevrolet from General Motors and opened Rotolo Chevrolet in May of 71. So it's 54 years. I just answered the question. He was sole owner and operator until 1995 when his daughter Marie purchased stock in the corporation and became partner and dealer operator. Mariano took the position of chief executive officer and Marie became president. We strive to be the best dealership around. We ask questions, we listen, and we are always looking for ways to improve. We are also very involved in the community. Mariano was a member of the Rotary Club of Fontana for 50 years and was even president from 68 and 69. The team at Rotolo Chevrolet Incorporated would like to welcome you to our dealership in Fontana, where we're confident you'll find the vehicles you're looking for a price you can afford. Come and check out our full selection of new Chevrolet vehicles or get a great deal on a reliable pre-owned model. No matter which vehicle you decide on, our professional finance team will help you settle with a competitive financing or lease plan. And I know a lot of people that have bought vehicles from Rotolo Chevrolet on the Teamster Advantage program, including you, Mark, as he's raising his hand over there. So when you're looking for quality auto maintenance and repairs near Fontana, you can always count on the professional technicians in our Chevrolet service department as well, where we handle everything from oil changes and filter replacements to powertrain and drivetrain repairs. Schedule an appointment today or purchase parts from us to handle maintenance and repairs on your own. Lots of folks in Fontana count on the high-quality vehicles and services found at Rotolo Chevrolet Incorporated. And we look forward to living up to our reputation every day. Stop in and see us today or contact the staff for any questions. Teamster Advantage pricing. If you're going to buy an Equinox, $1,500 off. An Equinox EV, $3,000 off. A Silverado, $3,500. A Suburban, $500. A Tahoe, $500. A Traverse, $500. A Blazer, $3,000. A Blazer EV, $4,000. That's off. Trax, $1,000. Trailblazer, $1,000 off. And if you're in the market for a Corvette, a 2025 Corvette, that's $5,000. But that excludes the ZR1. So anyway, just thought I'd do a little read on that. And really, if you're going to call, please ask to speak to James Spica.
Close enough.
SBICCA in the internet department to receive the discount. So again, appreciate the partnership. The Teamster Advantage program, more than 1,000 small businesses that we have in the network. We're proud of that relationship that we built in over 26 chambers of commerce throughout the area. We appreciate that partnership. Was you going to say something?
Yeah, those prices are as of January 6th or June 6th, so they're very, very current. And they'll also add any manufacturer rebates to those prices.
Oh wow!
So they'll add on what they can offer.
Yeah, I've heard of some really, really good deals coming in on the Teamster Advantage program. I've heard some people not like them either, and I just say, well, just move on. Like you tried, you took a shot, go somewhere else. Like all we can do is try to help. And I've heard stories of like $11,000-$12,000. People have made huge, significant dents into the overall price of something, especially if they're trying to blow it out. They got old inventory, they got to move it. It's great to see that we can help in that space. Before I bring up this last subject, Robert's going to help me with this. There's some other stuff going on. He's flagging me, screaming at me and stuff, but I do want to cover a couple things real quick. Kathleen and I are going to do another video here very soon where we talk about the post-open enrollment for county employees. We had gotten so much positive feedback from the open enrollment the video we did during open enrollment after the first week of explaining a lot of things that were going on in and around the benefits that we were, what we're going to do is we're going to do a video at the conclusion because, man, am I disappointed at some of the misinformation people put out there. Now, for those of you that put misinformation out and you took down your Facebook posts, thank you. Appreciate that. First of all, I don't like the fact that you put misinformation first. But second, I'm in a space right now where we have built a retiree medical component, affordable health care. First of all, it was affordable health care and driving down the cost of the premiums and trying to improve those plans to match the participants a lot better, which I believe we have been successful at. Then we were able to build a retiree medical component, an early retiree, and then a post-65. And now that you have these cuts to Medicare, that post-65 is even more important. The post-65 benefit that supplements Medicare is even more important now because, it's almost prophetic that we were able to get that up and running, rolling. And many people that push back said, well, why does it matter? I'm going to, at 65, I'm going to be on Medicare. Well, have you looked at what Medicare doesn't cover? Have you looked at how much it changes? How much is your deductible when you show up, or how much is your copay, and how much is this and how much is that? And, a lot of times people, again, make decisions without the information. And when open enrollment began, open enrollment was like 21 days long. It ended up being an additional week, so it was almost a full month. So there was plenty of time to work through a lot of challenges. And we understand that, nobody likes change, but if you don't encourage change, you get taken advantage of. And the trustees decided to eliminate the option of Blue Shield and Kaiser, first and foremost because Kaiser's just not been a good partner with wellness, and Blue Shield was a better partner, but many of their plans were restricted in a sense that they're packages you got to buy because it's like a fully insured plan. And as a result, those same plans are available to the members through the county's plans. So they were duplicated either by the trust fund or by the county, depending on who had created the plans first. Most of the plans we had created first and the county duplicated. However, there was 2 plans that we had duplicated when we first initiated the fund. And my reason for bringing all this up is that myself and Kathleen, as you've heard me say many times, Kathleen Brennan, our president, is phenomenal. We spent countless hours over the last month, primarily in the first 3 weeks of open enrollment, just dispelling misinformation. And what I was really shocked by was people's rush to judgment to be distrusting. Yeah, I am taken back on that one. And I am, no one else advocated over the last 30 years to bring down the cost of healthcare because it was continually rising until we built a system to fix it. And then on top of it, no one else built a system to create a retiree medical component, a pre-65, in addition to a post-65. And those things were all accomplished. Not without challenges. And so we're going to do a video, do a podcast like this where we explain some of the things that happened because we're extremely disappointed in some things that the county did and others did, and the missteps that were made by some individuals in this space. And then all of a sudden people wanted to take it out on us. And I'm just, I'm gonna really lean into this and ask you not to do that again in the future, because the amount of work that's gone into trying to create these pathways that nobody else was willing to do, some of the things that people said, just unacceptable. It's just unacceptable. And I've had to check some people and say, look, you're not going to talk to us that way. You're not going to talk to me that way. Like, you're talking to the people that actually put the work in to make it happen. It's not acceptable. We wouldn't allow anybody to talk to you like that at work. Don't talk to me that way either. So I understand people get frustrated, but that doesn't give them the excuse to actually take it out on the very people that are making your healthcare more affordable and giving you a pathway when it comes to retiree medical, because less than 5% of the population has that option that you have now if you were arguing about this space. So with that, we are going to do that here pretty soon, and we got a few minutes here, like 4 minutes, 3 minutes. Robert, you got some stuff there you want to comment on, and we can riff off of? Thanks for jumping in here, Robert.
Yeah, no, it's hard to follow after that, but so I mean, to go back to what I was going to talk about was the Teamsters Union as a whole. I mean, you just mentioned less than 5%. It's actually probably less than that because it's, not everyone has, even if you have a union contract, has retiree medical. So that's super on point. But the Teamsters Union on a whole is taking on giant corporations like Costco, the news that you just went over with Airgas, and
UPS,
with Tyson, UPS, and then Amazon. Right, this week is Prime Day, or it's Prime
Week now.
Prime Week, actually, yeah. And so it's pretty cool that we work for an organization and that we represent members who are part of this larger movement.
Yeah.
Taking on some of the greediest corporations. And I saw an article that I thought I just mentioned that it was talking about how the Teamsters are taking on these like giant corporations, right? And it's true that not only is it UPS, Amazon.
Which article was that? Which
I think it was on like the Independent, which is a fairly center right type of article or news organization. But and I think it just goes to what we always say on the radio show, or you always say on the radio show about worker power. That really the Teamsters are, in my opinion, a force to be reckoned with, not only on the local level, but nationally.
And we're the most militant organization out there right now. I know a lot of organizations want to claim that they are, but no one's putting their money where their mouth is. Mm-hmm. And, if you just use the Amazon as an example, our militant approach there is as militant as it comes on a scale that is unheard of. So thanks for pointing that out. And you're right. I am with you. I am just as proud to be part of an organization that is that active. And I appreciate our general president, our general executive board, making sure that we have a pathway like that and supporting the direction. That doesn't come easy, and that comes with policy that they're creating within the organization to make sure that we're all encouraged to move in a very aggressive fashion. So I got to close the show out, and we're building worker power. This is a space in which we've got this Thank a Teamster program, and we're building out a message to thank a Teamster all across the Inland Empire, and you see it on our billboards and our buses. You see it on the radio show, and more and more people are listening, more and more people are seeing. And you may ask, what can I do to build worker power? What you can do to build worker power is you can talk to your friends, you can talk to your family, you can talk to your neighbors, and you can organize a union and get worker power at your location. Make sure you have the right to withhold your labor, to demand your employer do better, provide you great health care, have a retirement vehicle, and make sure that you can retire in dignity at a later date. With that, this is The Worker Power Hour with Randy Corrigan on the Teamsters Local 1932 Broadcast Network. Live from San Bernardino most of the time. Take it away, Mark.